A very good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us for the live stream of the special sitting of the Court of Appeal to mark the retirement of the Honorable Mr. Justice Dennis Morrison, President of the Court of Appeal. Thank you for joining us on our social media platforms, on Twitter at Jam Judiciary, on our Facebook page, The Judiciary of Jamaica, and on our YouTube channel, Jamaican Judiciary. Remember to like, share, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms. All the judges of the Court of Appeal, along with the Chief Justice, will be sitting today to pay special tribute and to bid farewell to the Honorable Mr. Justice Dennis Morrison. Of course, we will be using all three divisions of the court today in order to observe physical distancing. All the judges have taken their places in Division 3. The judges will now take their places in Division 2. This is Division 2. We see the Honorable Mrs. Justice Al-Marie Sinclair Haynes, and behind her, the Honorable Mrs. Justice Jennifer Straw, the Honorable Mrs. Justice Jennifer Edwards, and the Honorable Miss Paulette Williams. And that's the Honorable Mrs. Justice Nicole Foster Pusey. The judges are now preparing to enter Division 1. We see the Honorable Mrs. Justice Marva MacDonald Bishop. The Chief Justice is taking his seat. And we see the man of the hour, the Honorable Mr. Justice Dennis Morrison. Behind him, we see the Honorable Mr. Justice Patrick Brooks. And out of your vision at the moment, the Honorable Mrs. Justice Hilary Phillips, who will be presiding today. We will now throw to the registrar inside the courtroom to begin the sitting.
Good morning. Honorable Chief Justice, Honorable President of the Court of Appeal, former Chief Justice, Honorable Mrs. Justice Zayla McCalla, former Presidents of the Court of Appeal, the Honorable Mr. Justice Fort, Honorable Mr. Justice Paul Harrison, Honorable Mr. Justice Seymour Panton, former judges of the Court of Appeal who sat with Justice Morrison, Justice Walker, Justice Smith, Honorable Mr. Justice Cook, Honorable Mr. Justice Carl Harrison, Honorable Mrs. Justice Hazel Harris, Honorable Mr. Justice Mahadeb Duran, and Honorable Mrs. Justice Norma McIntosh. I welcome you all. I greet you well. I also greet all colleagues, members of Justice Morrison's family, Mrs. Morrison, sons, daughters, sisters. I also greet the members of the media and all other persons who are joining us on the different virtual platforms. I welcome you all to this special sitting of this court to mark the retirement of the Honorable Mr. Justice C. Dennis Morrison, Court of Appeal President. I just wish to say that because of COVID-19, the pandemic has us in its grip, and because of that, we are unable to have the usual sitting that we would have where people would be very close together. Everybody who wished to come would be able to come. We would be rubbing up on one another and perhaps even be standing in the aisles. We can't do that. We're sorry about that, and we do apologize for those persons who have specifically indicated that they wish to be here and they also wish to personally address the President. We are forced. Madam Corona is looking after us, and we have to try to be careful to try to keep ourselves and others healthy. So here we are. Thank you so much for coming. The Honorable Mr. Justice Cecil Dennis Harrington Morrison, Commander of the Order of Distinction, Order of Jamaica, who we honor today, took an unusual path to the judiciary as he was elevated directly from the private bar to the Court of Appeal and appointed as a Judge of Appeal on May 1, 2008. Although a great loss to the bar of eminent Queen's Counsel, his appointment was a huge feather in the cap of the judiciary. I have the unparalleled privilege of chronicling for everyone today his incredible journey to this bittersweet occasion of his retirement. Justice Morrison was born on December 4, 1950. A graduate of Jamaica College, he matriculated as a student of the University of the West Indies, Mona, he was a Taylorite, and Cave Hill campuses, attaining in 1973 a first-class honors degree, and thereafter the legal education certificate with merit. I'm informed and do verily believe that he obtained 14 A's and 1 A minus whilst pursuing the professional postgraduate legal course at the Norman Manley Law School. It was therefore a natural segue for him to be selected as a Rhodes Scholar in 1975, which permitted his journey to Oxford University for further studies. He was admitted to practice on October 6, 1975, and was elevated to the rank of Queen's Counsel in 1994, and later became a Fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators in 2013. Throughout that period, however, he was engaged in doing several things. He started his legal career in 1977 as an associate tutor at the Norman Manley Law School and continued as a full-time tutor until 1982, when he commenced a full-time private practice. Nevertheless, he remained an associate tutor from 1982 until 1998, and then from 2005 up until now. In that short break between 1998 and 2005, he was chairman of the Council of Legal Education. He was also an adjunct lecturer from 2002 to 2004 of the Faculty of Law, University of West Indies, Mona. There is no doubt of Justice Morrison's passion for imparting legal precepts and principles in molding students of the law, thus shaping the legal landscape in Jamaica and the wider Caribbean region. But he was not only teaching. He was a member of the Jamaican Bar Association, the General Legal Council, the Academic Committee of the Council of Legal Education, member of the Independent Jamaica Council for Human Rights, of the International Bar Association, and a member of the Judicial Services Commission and the Regional Judicial and Legal Services Commission of the Caribbean Court of Justice. And of course, not to be forgotten, he was chairman of the Kingston Legal Aid Clinic, Legal Aid Council of Jamaica, Continuing Legal Professional Development of the General Legal Council, of the Criminal Case Management Steering Committee, and of the committees established to formulate judicial conduct guidelines for Jamaica and sentencing guidelines for use in the parish courts and the Supreme Court. During that time, he also became a Commonwealth Foundation Fellow and was rapporteur at the 8th Commonwealth Law Conference in Ocho Rios, Jamaica. But we couldn't hold on to him here at home, though. That would have been considered selfish and perhaps insular. So we loaned him during that period to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas as General Counsel to the Commission of Inquiry, appointed by the then Governor General to inquire into and report on the HMBS Inagua incident of the vessel Lorraquin, as well as to Trinidad and Tobago as one of the members of the tribunal appointed by the President to consider the question of the removal of the Chief Justice from office in 2007. He also assisted in the production of a report on legislative reform of company law in the Turks and Caicos Islands in 2012. Because of his immense prowess in the law, he was requested while at the private bar to serve on several boards, including the Bank of Jamaica, Allied Insurance Brokers Limited, First Global Securities Limited, RBTT, Bank Jamaica Limited, where he also served as its chairman, as well as the Life of Jamaica, now Sagicor. Additionally, he generously gave of his time to the upliftment of the less fortunate by committed service to the CVSS United Way, Mustard Seed, and the Kingston YMCA, which he chaired. Despite all that extracurricular activity, however, his main focus throughout the years, believe it or not, was as senior partner in litigation in the law firm of Duncox, which years he recalls with fondness. He developed into an extraordinary advocate, appearing as counsel in a wide range of matters in Jamaica and the Caribbean region, as well as before the law lords in the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, where, in the latter court, if my memory serves me right, one of his very early forays in that court is reported in the All England reports. Nevertheless, he was also able to give us his time and expertise in the spheres previously indicated, for which we have all, in different ways, been beneficiaries. It was during that period when, in 2004, he made his first step towards his sterling judicial career, as he became a judge of the Court of Appeal of Belize, where he served with distinction for over 11 years. He was also an acting judge of appeal for a short time of the Eastern Caribbean Court of Appeal, and since 2015 till the present serves as a judge of appeal in the Court of Appeal of the Cayman Islands. In 2012, a grateful nation honored him with the Order of Distinction Commander Class, and he was bestowed with the Order of Jamaica on his appointment as President of the Court of Appeal in 2016. Recently, he was elected as an honorary bencher of Lincoln's Inn. Before I get to the most important aspect of his career, I must mention just in passing the fact that over the years, Justice Morrison, in spite of serving in Herculean measure on all those entities, managed to publish 27 papers and articles, write 18 unpublished presentations covering topics relating to both the civil and criminal law, from consideration of the Judicial Committee and the death penalty, confessions and the voir dire, to interim injunctions, reform of the law of evidence, negligence in the law of banking, confidentiality and legal professional privilege, and I could go on and on and on. I must mention also, and although these are not all of them, our president was invited to and gave the address to the graduating class of the Hugh Wooding Law School in 2010, Eugene Dupuch in 2012, and delivered in 2018 the inaugural Maurice Stoppy Lecture, the Eugene Dupuch Distinguished Lecture in Nassau in 2019, and the Honorable Dr. Lloyd Barnett Distinguished Lecture in Jamaica in 2019. Notwithstanding sharing an abundance of riches over these many years, instead of appearing to need to retire, to the contrary, he's still looking so youthful and ready to go on for a further 70 years. And that is because Justice Morrison epitomizes Winston Churchill's pithy comment, "Some people dream of success, while others wake up and work hard at it." Or, as Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. reminds us, not everybody can be famous, but everybody can be great, because greatness is determined by service. That is what our president has done and achieved all of his working life. That brings me to our court. On May 1st, 2008, that journey began here as a judge of this court. Justice Morrison, from day one, took on the very difficult cases. He has worked steadfastly and marvelously at developing Jamaican jurisprudence and leaving for posterity an incredible body of work. He has worked effortlessly with the changing faces of the court and has led as its president since January 2016. He walked the property when the building was being refurbished, and it was a common sight to see him in hard hat, touring with the contractor, architect, and property managers to ensure the safety and comfort of all of us who would be deployed here. It was therefore fitting that he presided over the opening of the court in its renewed setting. He has, during his tenure, been innovative with the publication of the court's annual report, which ensures transparency of the work being undertaken by the court. He initiated the Court Users Committee, made up of members of the Court of Appeal and representatives of various stakeholders in the profession which interface with the court. These interactions have assisted the production of new procedures to enable greater efficiency in the operation of the court. He has, with his creative imagination and with the concurrence of the judges of the court, and always working with the indefatigable and supremely efficient registrar, produced several practice directions and practice notes, facilitating smoother disposal of matters. He steered the court seamlessly through the difficult experience of the global pandemic, and not even COVID was able to prevent this court, under his leadership, from continuing to serve the public with a high standard of a timely delivery of justice for all. The virtual hearings have become the norm. The teleconference is a feature which will remain with us for a long time, and there was certainly quick response and compliance with the new regime and regular communication with litigants and attorneys for the handling of matters in this new paradigm. We thank Justice Morrison for his attention to detail and for all his efforts which made the experience palatable and not as difficult as it could have been. Lastly, I must mention the quiet dignity of our president, a man who is accessible to all, from his wise guidance and discussion on the law to his contribution to doctor bills, school fees, and the like, and just plain old counseling sessions. He wears his talents and abilities like a gentle cloak. His humility abounds, and that is why to say that he is loved by all is putting it mildly. To say that he will be monumentally missed by his colleagues, the registrars, judicial clerks, secretaries, and the registry staff cannot be challenged by anyone. We can only thank him for just being him. We also thank his loving and supportive wife, Janet, his amazing mother, Ines, his sons, Simon and Daniel, daughters, Giselle and Chrissy, sisters, Anthea and Petrona, and other members of his family for permitting him to be able to spend so much time in the court. Maybe, just maybe, you will see more of him now, but that will depend on whether he's called on often, as we expect he will be, from many in the profession to do many things. His retirement may be in name only. We shall see. But as always, we wish him all good things. And now I shall call on the Chief Justice, the Honorable Mr. Justice Brian Sykes, Order of Jamaica, to bring remarks from the judiciary, including judges of the Supreme Court, the Parish Court. Justice Sykes, over to you.
Thank you very much, Justice Phillips. Honorable Mr. Justice Morrison, President of the Court of Appeal. Honorable Mr. Justice Patrick Brooks, soon to be President of the Court of Appeal. Judges of Appeal, judges of the Supreme Court, the Chief Judge of the Parish Courts, judges of the Parish Courts, the staff within the courts, both in the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal. And I will acknowledge the presence of distinguished members of the bar here. See the Director of Public Prosecutions, Mr. Michael Hilton, Queen's Counsel, Mr. Alan Wood, Mr. Green, the President of the Bar, the Solicitor General, President of the Cornwall Bar, and other distinguished members of the legal profession. I see here on the note available to me that the President of the Caribbean Court of Justice will be speaking as well, so he may be listening in now, so I wish to acknowledge him. That is the Honorable Mr. Justice Adrian Saunders, and I adopt the welcome and the acknowledgement so ably made by the Honorable Mr. Justice Phillips to the retired presidents of this court and the retired judges of this court. And so this morning we are gathered in person and electronically to honor the Honorable Mr. Justice Dennis Morrison, Order of Jamaica, Order of Distinction, Commander Class, President of the Court of Appeal of Jamaica. He would have been, as we have gathered from the history so ably captured by Justice Phillips, among the first graduates of the newly established Faculty of Law at the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill Campus, Barbados, and also the newly established Norman Manley Law School, located at the University of the West Indies, Mona Campus. We know of his academic competence, but for me, his most lasting legacy, we can look at it in three parts. Part one, as a teacher of the law of evidence at the Norman Manley Law School. Part two, his contribution to nation building and the Caribbean civilization, as Professor Hilary Beckles likes to put it. And thirdly, his contribution to the rule of law within Jamaica and the broader Caribbean. I first met this distinguished and quintessential Caribbean man in September of 1984 as a first-year student at the Norman Manley Law School in the Law of Evidence class. His smoothness of delivery and elegant use of language captured the hearts and minds of the law class of that year. I think it is fair to say that he may well be one of the few persons, perhaps other than Ms. White and Mr. Carson, who has perhaps taught just about every generation of lawyers in Jamaica from that time until now. And many of them have risen to become judges in the various territories. Some are now in the Court of Appeal, a substantial number in the Supreme Court and on the parish court bench. His commitment to teaching and learning is reflected in the fact that he has been involved as a teacher, whether full-time or part-time, at the Norman Manley Law School for over 30 years. And that has continued where he became, later on in his adult life, and when I say later on, I mean just a few years ago, a participant in the Commonwealth Judicial Education Institute program in Halifax, Canada, where he lends his considerable skills to that institution, where judges from all over the Commonwealth are engaged in the task of judicial education and how to become judicial educators. As I indicated, he has taught multiple generations of lawyers across the Caribbean. In respect of his contribution to nation building, Justice Morrison lent his considerable skills to many organizations, from the Medical Council of Jamaica, the Independent Jamaica Council for Human Rights, the First Global Securities Limited, Union Bank Holding Limited, and this was during the difficult period of the financial sector crisis in Jamaica. Also engaged in charitable activities. He sat on the board of the Mustard Seed Community. All these institutions and many more have each made significant contribution to Jamaica's national development. As far as the wider Caribbean is concerned, he was secretary of the Organization of the Commonwealth Caribbean Bar Association, and as Justice Phillips has mentioned, counsel to the Commission of Inquiry to the Bahamas, and also that commission that was appointed by the then President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago to consider the question of the removal of the Chief Justice. He's also a member of the Regional Judicial and Legal Services Commission that selects judges for the Caribbean Court of Justice. I close this aspect of my reflection by acknowledging that he has sat on the Court of Appeals of the various islands that have been mentioned by the Honorable Ms. Justice Phillips. As can be seen, Justice Dennis Morrison stands as a colossus in our Caribbean region. I think I'm unique in many respects, so I first encountered him as a student. Then I can say that I had the privilege of having Justice Morrison appear before me as counsel, as a judge in the Supreme Court in that famous case commonly called the Pear Tree Bottom case, which established certain standards for dealing with environmental matters in Jamaica, and I understand it has become a significant case in the Faculty of Law in this area. I had the experience then of experiencing his considerable skills as an advocate as he presented the case which involved intricate areas of administrative law. As any judge will attest, a lawyer who is organized in mind, manner, and matter is a joy and makes the judicial enterprise that more enjoyable, and I experienced that in that particular case. So, I met him as a student, and then I had him before me as counsel. Then my journey with Justice Morrison continued. I became a judge of the Supreme Court, and then Justice Morrison joined the judiciary in Jamaica in 2008 at the Court of Appeal 3 years after I became a judge of the Supreme Court. And then our association professionally became even closer when I was appointed Chief Justice in 2018, and both of us now were sitting on the Judicial Services Commission. And so what can be said and what has been said about his legendary skills for diplomacy and tact and his ability to diffuse tense moments were not exaggerated. As a young and inexperienced Chief Justice, it was comforting to know that a person of the caliber of Justice Morrison was available. He has assisted the Commission in handling delicate issues and to maneuver through potentially difficult circumstances when they arose. His calm demeanor, a well-placed word, a discerning smile, are all characteristics I'm endeavoring to adopt. If I may be permitted to call my elder by first name, a practice that my parents in rural Jamaica stamped out of me very early while I was growing up in Portland, I'll say, Dennis, you have made an indescribable imprint on the lives of many persons in Jamaica and the Caribbean and the world. And I will close by referring now to the third part, which is contributing to the rule of law. And it is from two perspectives that I look at it. First, we have heard of his contribution as a judge of appeal in the various territories. And what I will say is that Justice Morrison's approach, particularly to judgments coming from judges at first instance, has affirmed and confirmed that there can indeed be a gentler and kinder approach. And so, under his leadership in particular, we have seen where the Court of Appeal here has not shied away from utilizing judgments from first instance judges, provided that they have something of value to say to contribute to resolve the particular legal issue. And that marks a distinct shift from the stance of the court a few years ago. And so it is really what I call an all-embracing approach to the practice of law, that all have a space and all can contribute. And so that is one of the significant things that he has brought to the development of the rule of law and causing its roots to sink deeper into our Caribbean civilization. And so may you enjoy your retirement, Dennis, surrounded by a family, your children and grandchildren and your wife. And to his family, I, on behalf of a grateful judiciary, say thank you for making him available to do the things that he has done and to make the effective contribution that he has made. And may he have a long and enjoyable retirement. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Justice Sykes. We'll be looking out for those aspects that you have indicated that you plan to undertake. We'll keep you at your promise and your word, sir. Thank you ever so much. It gives me great pleasure now to call on a dear friend and colleague, the Honorable Mr. Justice Adrian Saunders, President of the Caribbean Court of Justice, to bring remarks on behalf of himself, his court, and the region.
It gives me immense pleasure to pay this brief tribute to the Honorable Mr. Justice Dennis Morrison. I first met Dennis in the early 70s at the Cavell Faculty of Law. He was in the first cohort of Caribbean-trained law students, and I was in the third. And so we overlapped for 1 year. He was doing his final year, while I was doing my first year. It was quickly obvious to us first year students that Dennis was special, that he stood out among the student body with character traits that have remained with him down to this day. Affable, generous of his time, easygoing. We all looked up to him and envied his beguilingly effortless academic excellence. Everyone called him linguist, and sometimes I still do, although I've never heard him speak anything other than the Queen's English and Jamaican patois. Dennis has made an enormous and diversified contribution to the development of our Caribbean jurisprudence. And here I speak of Caribbean jurisprudence in its widest possible form, its widest possible sense. I don't simply mean judicial decision making, although he has done much of this. In fact, he has sat in several different jurisdictions of the Caribbean as an appellate judge, perhaps more than any other judge, or most, certainly. But even besides the judging, he has made a huge contribution to the promotion of our Caribbean jurisprudence, because for me, the building blocks of that jurisprudence embraces all that is involved in advancing that mission from the ground up. And so Dennis has, for example, been instrumental in the molding of Caribbean law students. And those former students who were fortunate enough to have been taught by him will tell you that, surprise, surprise, he was their favorite lecturer. For many years, he played an influential role in the Council of Legal Education, and for some of those years, he was at the helm of that institution that administers the 3 law schools in the region. He's also held leadership roles in the Jamaica Bar Association and in the Caribbean Bar Associations. And I am so very blessed that at this particular time, he is a member of the Regional Judicial and Legal Services Commission that has responsibilities for the administration of the Caribbean Court of Justice, including the appointment of judges and staff and defining the terms and conditions of staff. In each case, Dennis's temperament, his wisdom, his unimpeachable integrity, his ability to offer solutions to the most intractable problems without causing any fuss, have all helped to consolidate, to advance, and to ennoble our Caribbean jurisprudence. Many years ago, a distinguished jurist, who must remain nameless, asked me, it was in the context of an important legal assignment, asked me whether I knew Dennis Morrison from Jamaica. I said, yes, of course. He is the finest product that has come out of the University of West Indies Faculty of Law. I meant that then, and it remains the case today. Jamaica has every right to be justly proud of and to celebrate this most distinguished son of the soil. Equally, we and the rest of the Caribbean are all entitled to claim him as one of ours. His service to the region has been immeasurable and profound. In Dennis Morrison is embodied greatness. I have no doubt that he will be sorely missed as President of the Court of Appeal of Jamaica. But dear Janet, I know only too well what you must be thinking. But let me warn you, Dennis's retirement will only increase the demand in Jamaica and abroad, even outside the region, for his legal expertise and his experience. But I know that you know how to manage that. Dennis, you and I have worked together on many different endeavors, and I'm extremely fortunate that for so many decades I've been able to rely on your friendship and your wise counsel. It pleases me to know that in the years ahead I will be able to continue to do so. I wish you all the very best in this next phase of life's journey. I thank you.
Thank you. So eloquently and elegantly said, as can only be said by the President of the Caribbean Court of Justice. Thank you, Mr. Justice Saunders, for your participation in this event. We can see that we could feel that those words were coming from the heart. We now move on, and I call on Director of Public Prosecutions, Ms. Paula Llewellyn, Queen's Counsel, to bring remarks.
May it please you, milady, may it please you, Mr. Justice Morrison, Chief Justice, all the other judges of the appeal, the head of the CCJ and all the parish court judges, my distinguished colleagues, all, members of the court staff, members of the media, members of the family of Mr. Justice Morrison, members of the public. This is an occasion that I believe I can speak on behalf of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution and perhaps previous directors, if I may be so bold, and other persons who have passed through the office that we were dreading, and that is the retirement of Mr. Justice Morrison. He has always been wonderfully articulate in any forum. He has exemplified keen intellectual acuity, a brilliant mind, a tremendous work ethic, self-discipline, and what is critical is the fact that with all of this brilliance, he has epitomized the importance of humility being the underbelly of success. I have heard the Honorable Chief Justice speak of having had Mr. Justice Morrison appear before him. Well, may I say that when I was at law school, I was not so fortunate to have had Mr. Justice Morrison as my evidence tutor. But he was such a legend that a lot of us who were not so fortunate would feed vicariously from the energy of hearing our colleagues speak of his intellect, his brilliance, and his humility, and also some of the notes. Now may I indicate, Chief Justice, I had the pleasure of appearing against Mr. Justice Morrison. And I am going to reveal to Mr. Justice Morrison now that I was totally in awe. Once, at first instance, and I said to my colleagues, but doesn't he mainly practice in the civil court? What is he doing in the criminal arena? Why me? And then it got worse in the Court of Appeal in a complex murder case. And I'm going to say now, I don't know if I said it then, why I will never forget you, Justice Morrison, in that murder case is that unknown to the court, My mother, who I had visited early in the morning, was just going into very serious surgery at Natal Hospital. You had already addressed the court, and I had sat in awe at how effortlessly you articulated the points. Although I didn't agree with most of them, but I told my mother about you just before she went into surgery. And I told her I had a junior. And she said to me, and she knew your mother well, she said, Paula, the work ethic, you have to go into court because your junior wouldn't be able to manage. I'll be all right. Go to court and deal with Mr. Justice Morrison's, Mr. Morrison's points. But when I went to court, I will never forget that really human side of you. Because, as Mr. Justice Saunders said, and as the Chief Justice said, that effortless way of just being calm, it is so soothing. So here it is. I didn't agree with most of your points, but I was so calmed by your aura, and I'd never forget it. And my mother did come through the surgery, and I was able to tell her about you and tell her how everything went. Now, I heard the Chief Justice indicate that he hopes one day to get to the stage in respect of that consummate diplomacy and tact that Justice Morrison is so known for. But Chief Justice, I have been trying to emulate it for many years, and I'm still not there yet. Could it be that you and I are prisoners of our unique personality and we can only plead guilty, not even with explanation? But I am hoping that as Mr. Justice Morrison goes off into his retirement, that one, and I'm saying it in the presence of his dear wife, one critical thing that must be done is for you to record in a book that I know will be a bestseller the entire trajectory of your life, not only as one of the most brilliant and outstanding jurists of the Caribbean and the world, but also the human side in terms of how you have been able to operate in so many different fora in terms of giving that contribution to service above self, and yet do it in such a way that at the end of the day, all of us who interface with you will say, why can't I be like him? And of course, there must be one chapter talking about how to be the consummate diplomat, because that is what I will really, having had you now leave the scene before I have been able to fully come to that realization that maybe I can be like you in that way. Perhaps when you write that book, there will still be hope for me. On behalf of the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions and all of my staff there, they would wish me to congratulate you, to salute you, and indicate to you that it has been a great pleasure having you as this wonderful beacon to emulate in terms of what it means to be the consummate professional. And I say to you, Mr. Justice Morrison, that you have been not only a man for all seasons, but a jurist for all seasons. And I wish you all the very, very best in the next chapter of your life, which I know will continue to have and exude that wonderful brilliance that you're so known for. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam Director. Well, we're all listening, so we all have a lot of hope for a lot of diplomacy that's going to be going all around. A jurist for all seasons, yes, we can certainly take that away and agree with you 100%. We thank you so much, Madam Director. And we're moving on now, and I call on the Madam Solicitor General, Mrs. Marlene Aldred, to bring remarks from the Attorney General's chambers.
May it please you, my lady, Mr. Justice Morrison, Chief Justice, Honorable Justices, distinguished colleagues, to the family, Mr. Justice Morrison, members of the press, the public. It is also with mixed feelings that I speak this morning on behalf of the Attorney General's chambers. I've heard the term bittersweet. I think that is something that will reverberate throughout the day. Although this is a time-honored rite of passage, so to speak, forgive me for expressing that we do have quite a bit of regret that you are moving on. You have always exhibited those qualities of a judge, the demeanor, the patience, being fair, being open-minded, that counsel has always been able to lean on when all may seem to be going wrong. The body of jurisprudence that you have developed will guide all of us for years, decades to come. You have left a very big positive impact, not only on those who have appeared before you, but for the hundreds of us, like me, who you taught at the Norman Manley Law School, who you called to the bar, and I may want to say thousands of us who you called to the bar as well. And that gave us our start. There are many qualities that you always exhibited while at the bar, on the bench, that we will always emulate, and we will always try to pass on to those who we try to also counsel. We're indeed very grateful for all you have done to improve this profession, and we wish you all the best in this new phase of your journey. And I want to make a plug for the chambers in this new phase of your journey, that we will be in the top 1 for you to continue with training our staff. We also express gratitude to Mr. Justice Morrison's family for loaning him to us. And again, we also ask you to be patient with him as he moves on to his working retirement. May it please you.
Thank you very much, Madam Solicitor General. So you see, we're seeing the first sort of persons who wish to capture Justice Morrison before he has even retired. He has a job in the wings for training those members of the Attorney General's chambers. Thank you, Madam Solicitor General. Now we move on to a leader of the bar, leading Sikh, who has a very long CV, which I'll not bother to get into. I'll just simply say that he sort of goes without any necessity to describe all the various different achievements and accolades that have come his way. We're very happy to have with us this morning the Honourable Mr. Michael Hilton, Queen's Counsel, who will address us now. Thank you.
Thank you, my lady. My Lord Chief Justice, my Lord President, Lady Phillips, my ladies, my lords. This ceremony today is to mark the retirement of Justice Morrison from the bench. And it is therefore natural that we should focus on his achievements in that capacity. I fully endorse everything that previous speakers have said about his outstanding contributions as a judge, and especially as a member of this court. It was always a pleasure and an education to appear before Justice Morrison. Even, and perhaps I should say especially, when you lost. And my lords, I do have some experience of that. I lost my first appeal for Justice Morrison, and unless he delivers another judgment in the remaining hours, I will have also lost my last. But if you'll permit me, my lords, I would spend the few moments that I have to comment on Justice Morrison's other contributions to the law, the legal profession, and to the Caribbean people generally. As your lordships have noted, in addition to leading this bench, Justice Morrison has sat on the benches of the courts in numerous other jurisdictions in the region. But before that, he was a leader at the bar. And he was a leader of the bar in every sense, both formally, as president or chair of various organizations, as teacher, as mentor, and as one of our leading advocates. He has also, as my Lord Chief Justice noted, chaired or sat on and continues to sit on various legal bodies in Jamaica throughout the region. And my Lord, in all of these roles, Justice Morrison managed to achieve the impossible. He was at the same time always a commanding voice and at the same time a calming presence. I cannot improve on Justice Phillips' phrase, quiet dignity. A number of colleagues across the region have asked me to communicate to your lordships how much they respect Justice Morrison and how much they appreciate his contribution to their jurisdictions and in many cases to their personal development. And if you will permit me, I've been asked to read 3 short notes from 3 colleagues from Belize. Honorable Dennis Barrow, a judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice, fondly remembers that linguist was his mentor from the first time he arrived at the Cave Hill campus in the 1970s. He attributes much of his success to their lifelong friendship and fellowship. Godfrey Smith, senior counsel, recalls that in an informal interview of all Eastern Caribbean judges in July 2019, at a time when he was one of those judges, as to who was the judge that most inspired them, Dennis Morrison was a clear winner. And finally, Honorable Eamon Courtney, senior counsel, recently appointed Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade of Belize, salutes Dennis Morrison for his stellar contribution to Belizean and Caribbean jurisprudence. He says that Dennis is truly a legend in our time. Walk good, dear friend. My Lord, Justice Morrison and I started in the Faculty of Law on the same day. But in a very real sense, we were never contemporaries. Dennis Morrison was without question the leader of our generation of lawyers. He was the person who set the standards that we all sought to emulate. But perhaps his greatest and most enduring legacy will be the generations that followed. The lawyers across the region who he taught and mentored and guided, not just in the formal sense, but also from this bench, also in the various capacities in which he interacted with them and us. Our societies are all richer as a result. Justice Morrison, I suspect that in the same way that you defined every role and every capacity in which you served, you will redefine what retirement looks like. I'll put in a little word of support for the Solicitor General. No, the DPP doesn't need any support. So Justice Morrison, I congratulate you and salute you for your many achievements in various capacities, and I look forward to the achievements in your next phase. May it please you, my Lord.
Thank you, Queen's Counsel. So eloquently said. Yes, he is leader of the bar, teacher, mentor, a commanding voice, and a calm presence. He has really given so much in so many areas, and we look forward to so much more out of him. Thank you, Queen's Counsel. We move on now to the Chairman of the General Legal Council, Mr. Alan Wood, Queen's Counsel, to bring remarks.
My Lord Chief Justice, President Justice Dennis Morrison, my ladies, my lords, other distinguished colleagues, Janet and the family of Justice Morrison. I think of Justice Dennis Morrison as our Renaissance man. That is, a man of great knowledge, preeminent talents, which he has exhibited throughout his career as a distinguished scholar, teacher, advocate, jurist, and not least of all, a humanist, a person always concerned for the welfare of others, which he has manifested as mentor to countless members of the legal profession. For more than 4.5 decades, he has gifted our profession in the various diverse phases of his professional life as lecturer at the Norman Manley Law School, president of the Jamaica Bar Association, chairman of the Council of Legal Education, member of the General Legal Council, chairman of the Council's Continuing Legal Education Committee, judge of appeal, president of the Court of Appeal, and I could go on and on. This is but a small snapshot of his contribution. Throughout, he has been a firm advocate for the rule of law and for human rights. Now, if I may speak personally, Justice Morrison has been a great influence, mentor, and leader to me. I first met him almost 4 decades ago when he was my tutor at the law school. I don't think he remembers it, but I recall after I made a presentation to him, his characteristic words, "Well done, young Wood." We did not realize at the time that he was not much older than the students he was teaching. Approximately 15 years later, I was privileged to be awarded my red bag by him, accompanied with the words, "Well done, Wood." By that time, I realized that he no longer thought of me as young. His mentoring has not been restricted to me. He has performed this role for countless members of our profession for the last 4.5 decades, guiding us as an approachable friend and teacher, offering sound advice and kind words of encouragement. In this way, he has influenced for the better the mature development of our legal practitioners at the bar and his fellow judges on the bench. His contribution to our profession has been unequaled, and I dare say that notwithstanding his retirement from the Court of Appeal, he ain't done yet. So, Justice Morrison, Dennis, personally and on behalf of the General Legal Council, I extend congratulations and best wishes on your next great adventure. May I please?
Thank you so much, Mr. Wood. We can agree with you. Yes, he's a Renaissance man, a man of great knowledge, talents, distinguished scholar, teacher, jurist, humanist, fine advocate on the rule of law and human rights. We can agree with that, and thank you so much. We'll now move on to the presidents of the bar associations in Jamaica And we will call on Mr. Emile Leiber, President of the Jamaica Bar Association, to bring remarks on behalf of the association. Thank you, Mr. Leiber.
Much obliged, Your Ladyship. May it so please you, Honorable Chief Justice, President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Dennis Morrison, members of the Court of Appellate Bench, First Instance Bench President, and President of the Caribbean Court of Justice. Today, I wear many hats. I greet Justice Morrison, firstly, on behalf of the Jamaican Bar Association, where he served as president. I greet him on behalf of the Organization of Commonwealth Caribbean Bar Associations, where he was an executive member. On behalf of the Barbados Bar, the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Bar, and the Guyana Bar. If I may be permitted, I also bring greetings on behalf of Duncox, where Justice Morrison served many years as a valued partner of the firm who contributed in many ways to its reputation and standing today. I also greet you on behalf of the Norman Manley Law School, where I currently serve as an associate tutor there, and much has already been said about your contribution in that field. Now, in respect of Justice Dennis Morrison and thinking of all that has been said, the thought occurred to me that the best way to reflect Justice Dennis Morrison, in a way, is to say what he is not. Because we live in a world of caveats. You are good, but. She's attractive, but. You know, this person has done a good deed, but. No, this is not a biology class. So I shall return to the subject matter. It can be safely said that in respect of Justice Morrison, there is no caveat. As an advocate, he was at the top of his profession, as Queen's Counsel has been said. As a teacher, he is said to be the only teacher in respect of whom he'd have a full class despite not keeping a register. So, as a teacher yourself, you know that many students simply come to ensure that the register has been checked off, to ensure that they can get their bit of paper at the end. But in respect of Justice Morrison, no paper, no accountability was needed other than the privilege and benefit of being a member of his class. As a judge, of course, all that has been said of Justice Morrison, I endorse. Now, I also noted that just up to last night, I received a practice direction dated November 30th, 2020, signed by Justice Morrison, President of the Court of Appeal. And I noted that he continues to work tirelessly and contribute to the efficiency of the legal profession and of the courts. Because we know that some who move towards retirement, they slow down, they're doing less and they're preparing to, relax on their verandas. That is clearly not true of Justice Morrison. So we know he has already set the stage for his next endeavors. Now, as a speaker, of course, all that has been said in relation to him has made him a sought-after and enviable speaker. So whether he's speaking of legal topics or less than legal ones, then he is still sought after in that capacity. He has been the Bob Marley of the legal profession. Wherever you mention his name regionally, his name is said with a smile and a question. You know Dennis? He has also been the Sean Connery of the legal profession, universally lauded for his grace and charm. Ask any female attorney in the last 20 years, and they will speak admiringly of Dennis. I've never sought to inquire as to the precise nature of the admiration. However, its consistency never fails to be noted. And we are grateful that unlike those two goodly gentlemen, we still have the living legend here with us to continue to give as he has before and will continue to do so. Now, many superlatives have been applied to Dennis, but most notably, none have been applied by the man himself. As has been said previously, one of Justice Morrison's defining traits is his humility. And in a profession where more and more the egos seem to be larger than the capabilities, it is refreshing and always refreshing, no matter how often one experiences it, to witness the humility of Cecil Dennis Morrison. It had to be said at least once, Justice Morrison. C. Dennis, as others will know him as well, is a shining example in a world where sometimes our leaders are not what we would like them to be. They do not represent the best of us. They have many caveats. We have in Justice Morrison a leader without caveat. He has truly been a man for all seasons, has been said, a jurist for all seasons. And Justice Morrison, on the eve of your retirement and the commencement of the next stage of your life, whether it be as author, continuation, I wouldn't say as, of your teaching contribution, you will in every respect and always be an example for those of us who continue to practice at the bar, an example of what we should be like, both for judges and lawyers, the demeanor that we should adopt as attorneys, the approach that we should take to the practice of law and to our style of presentation. And before I am accused of being fulsome, which Justice Morrison helpfully, I remember in one of his Jambar presentations, was very clear as to what fulsome did not mean and its inappropriate usage, and how it did not necessarily refer to curvature. I shall close and wish Justice Morrison well on all his future endeavors. To Janet, Giselle, all the members of his family, we thank you for, as they have said, loaning him to us. We know that many times brilliance and success in one area can lead to detriments in others, but he has managed to navigate both and still remain a full head of thick hair. So it's quite an accomplishment that not all have been able to say they have managed. So Justice Morrison, on behalf of a grateful profession, we thank you. Much obliged.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leiber. Well, we'll certainly remember that for future we can describe Justice Morrison as the Bob Marley and the Sean Connery of the profession. We certainly take that away with us, and a leader without caveat. And I think perhaps we'd also add with a thick head of hair. It's like a big takeaway. Thank you so much. And now we'll move on to the President of the Advocates Association, Mr. Leonard Green, to bring remarks.
May it so please you. My Lord President, my Lord Chief Justice, judges of appeal, past and present, colleagues, I wish you well. Unhappily, I've lost all of my hair, but the very excellent staff, my Lord President, that you have in the Court of Appeal Registry have displayed unmatched diligence in seeking to ensure that I would not only be prepared, but also be on time and in attendance. And I commend you on having chosen such a staff. In seeking to bid you farewell, my Lord President, I am minded to remember that most of the speakers who have gone before have covered the grounds adequately. And I figured that that was what might have happened. I have chosen instead to focus on a single aspect of your contribution, and that is the element of decorum that you have brought to the courts. I will remind lawyers and advocates that it was not always like that. Permit me, my Lord, to share with you the comments of a young barrister, one Mary Aspinall Miles, published in the Law Society Gazette. She criticized judges who belittle and undermine advocates, claiming they can have profound impact on well-being. She added, I get that judges' workloads now are unbelievable and they are under stress too, but they are in a position of authority and most understand. I have no issue with being brought to task by a judge for shortcoming, failing, in fact. I welcome it if it helps me to improve. Mr. Justice Dennis Morrison has done much to improve lawyers. She goes on in closing to say, but the tone is key. That tone, my Lord President, that you have set in your role as President is irreversible. I think, my Lord, that you have demonstrated the value and indeed the importance of tone in how you conduct your deliberations on the bench. I do wonder, my Lord, where do judges draw the line? It was reported last month that a U.S. District Judge, Matthew Bram, in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, blasted the Trump team. You have never blasted anyone that I've heard about. And the blast was for presenting strained legal arguments and speculative accusations in support of their case challenging mail ballots in the state. The judge went on to say in describing the case that it had been haphazardly stitched together like a Frankenstein's monster. I've never heard that type of expression in our courts based on your own deliberations. Was the tone appropriate in those circumstances? I would think not. I would close, may it please you, President, by wishing you all the best and that hope in all of it you will take time out to enjoy the rest of the years that you are permitted. May it so please you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Green. I think that we will all constantly speak about Justice Morrison's decorum. It's just it's part of his DNA. It's just a part of him. And we continuously not only thank him, but we emulate it. And so, yes, this irreversible tone, we thank you for that. We move on now to the President of the Cornwall Bar Association, Mr. Lambert Johnson, to bring remarks from the West.
Thank you very much, lady, my Lord President, Honorable Chief Justice. Thank you, my lady, my Lord President, Honorable Chief Justice, my lords and ladies, family members, members of the press, and my esteemed colleagues. I just wish to make a comment about bald heads. I have been told on great authority that the good Lord made a few perfect heads and put hair on the rest. But my Lord President, you're the exception. It is indeed both a great honor and pleasure to be here today on behalf of the Cornwall Bar. And to be here this morning, I journeyed from west to east, and consequently, I had the benefit of a beautiful sunrise which boosted my spirits. But in a contemplative moment, it came to me with pellucidity that you have patterned that great and glorious luminary of nature that rises in the east, as by your written judgments you have communicated light and instruction in the law which guides and will continue to guide fellow judges and, of course, members of this profession. It therefore follows that your contribution to the development of the Jamaican and Caribbean jurisprudence is both remarkable and welcomed. Indeed, several of your judgments may now be referred to as the locus classicus. Your impact on the fabric of the Jamaican society will reverberate through the ages, as by your judgments we now know that you are one to whom the burdened heart may pour forth its legal sorrows and plead its legal conflicts. Yes, you are one who time and time again, by your judgments, have shown that your hand is guided by justice and your heart expanded by benevolence. You have been steadfast in upholding the Constitution while interpreting our laws to arrive at judgments that are just, true, and honorable. Your illustrious career has been marked by a genuine first-class love of the law. And though this is undoubtedly hearsay, permit me this one indulgence. It is suspected that even in private conversations, for every 10 words you speak, 12 words are about the law. And because I'm Chancellor, right, I must use this phrase. Sir, it is fittingly proper and properly fitting that you are regarded as a regional legal treasure, as evidenced by your appointment to several high judicial offices across the region. You are sought after based on your insights into the law and the justice and acuity with which you discharge your duties. On the adoption of a retrospective view of your elevation to the office of President of the Court of Appeal, it is very clear that you were acutely aware of the obligations which devolved on you as its head for the faithful discharge of the duties annexed to the appointment. You ensured that the honor, reputation, and efficiency of this court was multiplied exponentially based on the zeal and assiduity with which you managed its affairs. You were steadfast in your observation of the genuine principle which form the very foundations of our system of justice. By your virtuous, amiable, and discreet conduct, you have impressed on us all the dignity and high importance of how we should approach our respective duties as judges and as advocates. I was able to gather from some of your classmates, namely Roy Fairclough from the West, Ronald and Don Paris, and they having distilled their fondest memories of you to its finest, they described you as an ardent student who was transformed into an outstanding scholar with an exceptional love for the law, and this was validated by your being the Rhodes Scholar for 1975. They have asked me to tell you that they have watched your ascendancy with great joy and they have enjoyed it vicariously. And through it all, they say, I must tell you, you have remained a steadfast friend. I have it on excellent authority that as a student, when you were not fully engaged by your lecturer, instead of doodling like us mere mortals, you had the uncanny ability to write a list of names of about 50 persons and append thereto their telephone numbers. They still ponder, how were you able to accomplish this feat while effortlessly racking up A's after A's after A's? On a personal note, I am happy that I have journeyed here today as for me, one of the legal profession's enduring mystery has been revealed today. I now know that the C stands for Cecil. My Lord, as you embark on your new journey, it is my fervent wish and desire that God will continue to grant you good health and strength and the perspicacity to pursue your dreams. Thank you, my Lord.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson. I think I will always remember that light and instruction goes to locus classicus. And I will also remember that Justice Morrison has a hand that guides by justice and a heart extended by benevolence. Those things will stay with us, won't they? Thank you so much. So we move on now to the north. And we ask the president of the Northern Jamaican Law Society, Mrs. Pearline Bailey, to address us.
Thank you, Madam. Honorable Chief Justice, Honorable President of the Court of Appeal, Judges of the Court of Appeal, colleagues, all, good morning. It is with a distinct honor and pleasure that I'm here on behalf of the Northern Jamaica Law Society to pay tribute to a very distinguished and wonderful human being. Your accomplishments, Justice Morrison, has been well documented, so I need not go through them. I have chosen instead to concentrate on the view that your colleagues have of you, and I will say, my Lord, that when you have accomplished all that you have accomplished, and your colleagues look at you in admiration and with love, that is a true measure of the mark of the man. As counsel at the bar, your colleagues considered you a formidable opponent, possessed of a wealth of knowledge and skill, but always approachable and cordial. As tutor, your classes were riveting. You knew how to impart your knowledge with an ease and confidence that was easily grasped. You were and is still considered one of the best tutors of the law of evidence at the Norman Manley Law School. It was always amazing to us that once you met a student, you never forgot a face, you never forgot a name. And speaking as a female member of the bar who has been trained in the past 20-something years, Mr. Leiber did not ask the question, but I will answer that all members of the bar, female, have always expressed love for you, my Lord, because of this. We were always able to approach you without fear, seek the knowledge that we were seeking. You always imparted it with an easy smile and a confidence. You pulled us in without crossing any boundaries. And for that, you have always been admired and you will always be admired. As a judge, counsel has expressed without exception that appearing before you was always a learning experience. You were always composed and pleasant, even in the face of novel arguments. You spoke with clarity and a simplicity that always related the subject matter to the reality. The practical content of what you imparted was always helpful to counsel. In your numerous presentations at seminars and conferences, you were not only admired for the knowledge you imparted, but for your tendency, when not acting in an official capacity, to stroll into the conferences with your ever-present smile in your shorts. You are a man whose achievements are larger than life. You have done all this with humility and kindness. You are indeed, my Lord, the son to whom the father spoke in Rudyard Kipling's poem, and who became the man his father wanted him to be when he said, "If you can walk with the crowd and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, and if all men count you but not too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you will be a man, my son." My Lord, it is our considered view that you have become the man that your father wanted you to be. We wish you well and hope that you will find the time in your retirement to wear some more shorts.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Bailey. I was going to say my takeaway was Justice Morrison in the conferences in the shorts. We do recall that. He was quite noticeable. And many of us recall those conferences where much was learned, how to become friends with one another and to be dignified so that we could take that into the courtroom with us and not be protagonists only. So we're moving on, and we now call on the representative of the president of the Southern Bar Association. I think Mr. George Clue is here representing Mr. Dwight Weiss and that association.
Mighty please, my lady, Honorable Chief Justice, Honorable President of the Court of Appeal, other judges of Court of Appeal, distinguished colleagues, friends, good morning. Much has been said thus far, and there is hardly anything much I can add, only to say that I endorsed fully all that has been said by my colleagues and by the judges. My takeaway from this morning is that Justice Morrison, being a king, has walked with kings and has not lost the common touch. On behalf of the Southern Bar Association, your work, sir, and your worth are well appreciated. We would like to wish you success in your next phase of life. We are sure that you will continue to serve the judiciary and this noble profession of which we are a part. Might so please.
I think we can say that our president walks with kings and queens, princes and princesses, and never loses the common touch. Thank you ever so much. So now we have a very important speaker. This young man can be described as the firstborn. He's followed in his father's footsteps because he wouldn't allow Justice Morrison to be a Rhodes Scholar all on his own. He just decided he would do the same. And so he was a Rhodes Scholar many, many years later. One could say he's even cuter. What do you think? It's so nice to see you, Mr. Simon Morrison. And I now call on you. You're our surprise and very important speaker for today to speak on behalf of Mr. Justice Morrison's family. Thank you.
Thank you. And to the distinguished members of the legal profession and judicial fraternity gathered, to my family and my father's friends and colleagues gathered there, good morning. While I'm sorry, the circumstances don't permit us to mark this occasion all in person, I'm very pleased that we could gather nonetheless. Justice Phillips asked me to say something on behalf of the family to mark the occasion. My father wasn't aware that I was to speak, which I think was a good thing. I know he would prefer pomp and ceremony be kept to a minimum. But in this case, marking the end of an exceptional career, some ceremony is warranted. His peers have spoken about his professional life, so it falls to me to reflect on and celebrate the person we, his family, know. My father and his sisters, Anthea and Petrona, are the children of Cecil and Inez Morrison, both career civil servants. Inez, my grandmother, the family's grand dame, recently celebrated her 98th birthday. CJ, my grandfather, died before I was born. Though I never knew him, he looms still as a large character in the family lore. My aunts describe him as having harbored extravagant dreams for his children, and perhaps of having been extravagantly boastful of them. He was wont to make extreme claims about their virtues, their brains, their abilities. But what might have come across as overweening paternal pride was also a vision of the future. My grandfather's 3 children, having had exemplary careers in their chosen fields, Dennis in the law, Anthea as an academic, and Petrona as an artist. His sisters trace the beginnings of my father's judicial career to their childhood. They describe young Dennis as keenly sensitive to nuance and resolute in his willingness to consider both sides of any argument, to such an extent that, they tell me, when they were younger, he would drive his little sisters mad by insisting that they argue with their heads and not their hearts. He's an alumnus of JC, of UWI, where he studied before going to Oxford as a Rhodes Scholar. 30 years after he went to the UK, when I moved there myself, I found myself among many of his old Caribbean British friends there. To a person, they remembered linguist, as he was known to them, with a sort of reverence. Although I will here note that one of his UK contemporaries, perhaps more wayward than the rest, insists repeatedly that it was my father who introduced him to the none too appealing cocktail of whiskey and milk during their youthful debauches. Justice Morrison strenuously denies this account. When my brother Daniel and I were children, and my father was still in private practice, his work ethic was prodigious. It remains so. He was a formidable example to us. There was something perhaps monastic about him at his desk well into the night, lit by his desk lamp, surrounded by piled documents, the scratching sound of his fountain pen as he took notes. Later, in place of the fountain pen was a computer with the tap, tap, tap of his surprisingly proficient hunt and peck method as he sat there, still surrounded by mounds of documents. At his leisure, though, he was merely the humorous, curious, somewhat romantic, relaxed person you all know. The seriousness and hard work were in balance with his warmth. If he was not awake in the middle of the night working, he might have been up watching cricket should the West Indies have been playing in a far-off time zone. If he was ever stern or reproving with us boys in response perhaps to some exceedingly rare childish mischief, it took the form of nothing more than a deeply disappointed look. But to be sure, a look was enough. Now, in adulthood, it has been a particular pleasure to see my father reflected back to me in the impression he leaves with other people. People my age, youngish lawyers who had him as a tutor at the law school, or worked with him or appeared before him will frequently share their impressions as the various speakers have today. They will say that he is cool, that he's unruffled, that he wears his accomplishments and his intelligence lightly. I think it is meaningful that these fundamentals of who he is shine through, that even people who know him only glancingly form an essentially true picture of who he is, and that he is himself in his public life as he is in private. That he's himself across these areas, these environments, suggests that in his career, he has found a true vocation. It suggests too that he has the common touch. If in this picture of him, I am a little boastful, let us just say I'm cloaking myself in my grandfather's spirit, but also on an occasion such as this, a little swelling of the breast is surely warranted. So to my dear father, it is with great pride that I wish you congratulations today on behalf of our family. Congratulations on the end of this phase of your career, and we look forward to seeing what you will do next.
Thank you ever so much, Simon. I remember when I called him to say, Simon, you're going to be the last speaker before the great man. And I know that you're going to be as eloquent, if not more eloquent, than everyone who went before you. Of course, he's a big director at Amazon, so you know he's a man of great moment on his own. But I thank you, Simon, for responding so quickly and for speaking so eloquently on the man of the moment. So now I call on him, the Honorable Mr. Justice Cecil Dennis Harrington Morrison, Commander of the Order of Distinction, Order of Jamaica, President of the Court of Appeal of Jamaica, to reply.
Thank you very much, Justice Phillips. My Lord Chief Justice, my ladies and lords of the Court of Appeal, members of the bar, members of the public, members of my family, and all who have made the time to participate in this, for me, truly wonderful occasion. I am greatly indebted to my colleagues at the court who organized this morning's event almost entirely behind my back. When it became necessary to at least ensure that I would show up for work appropriately dressed this morning, all of them, not least of all Justice Phillips, the chief conspirator, treated me as they would an idiot child in need of care and protection. I'm quite simply overwhelmed by the turnout, both in person and virtually, as well as by all the extraordinarily, perhaps I should say extravagantly kind things that have been said as I reach this important milestone in my professional life. All that I am and all that I have been is the product of the many blessings that I have had in life. Strong, nurturing parents, as you have heard my son say, with extravagant dreams for their children. My mother, who turned 98 a couple weeks ago, and who continues to be a source of inspiration and support. My loving and supportive siblings, both of whom are here this morning, and who by their own examples in their own careers continue to demonstrate the ways of excellence. My children, all of whom, as it now turns out, are here today, 2 in person and 2 virtually. They also bring a source of pride to my life. My nephew, Tariq, who is here, my many cousins, my wonderful friends here in Jamaica and scattered throughout the region. And obviously foremost, my wife, Janet, my rock, and my commander-in-chief. When I joined the Court of Appeal in 2008, after more than half a professional lifetime of what I now think of as another life, I entered into a milieu of proven experience and eminence. I also had the benefit of wonderfully welcoming and supportive senior colleagues, most of whom I believe are in attendance virtually today. Justice Phillips has named them. While I never had the privilege of sitting with either retired President Fort or retired Justice Walker, I would also like to acknowledge the important role they played in bringing me to this point in life. Justice Walker, I know, would continue to insist up to this morning that it was he who first planted the seed. In my time, I have seen the court grow from 7 judges to 12, with a 13th to come in January 2021. We've also moved from cramped and wholly unsuitable quarters next door to the premises we now occupy. But all of this has resulted from literally decades of struggle, agitation, and advocacy involving past presidents such as Justices Rattray, Fort, Harrison, and Panton. I must single out retired President Panton for special mention. In 2007, at a time when I was grappling with the decision whether to leave private practice for the other side of the bench, so to speak, Justice Panton was the one who sealed the deal over a glass of wine one fine late summer evening. I can never forget his salutary example of judicial leadership. Without fanfare, always in good humor, always encouraging, and absolutely free from rancor. I must also especially mention retired Chief Justice McCallum, my friend from school days, whose trust and confidence in me led to my involvement in some important projects that I would like to think may have had some lasting impact on the judiciary as a whole. And finally, in this particular list, I will mention Chief Justice Sykes, who sits with us this morning. The Chief Justice's work and worth were well known long before he became Chief Justice. And already, Chief Justice, I believe it is right to say that the impact of your ambitious vision for the justice system has begun to bear fruit, and I fully expect that under your dynamic leadership, it will continue to go from strength to strength. I have been empowered and inspired by the dedication of my colleagues to try to give up my best as a judicial officer and leader. I have learned something from each and every one of them. I will miss the camaraderie and the friendship, and I will always cherish and recall with pride their collective example of a sustained quest for excellence in an often difficult environment. To Justice Phillips, my dear friend of many years, I give special thanks for the expert manner in which he has conducted this morning's proceedings, and personally for having shared this journey with me in the law at virtually every step of the way. I'm grateful to all who have spoken, for the very generous things that have been said, for the very warm and kind things that have been said. I continue to hold all of you in the esteem in which I have always done. And I certainly hope that beyond this court, beyond this place and these walls, our friendships will continue. And it gives me now particular pleasure to recognize and to present to you my friend and brother Justice Brooks, who will assume duties as President of the Court of Appeal as of Monday, December 7, 2020. In the view of all members of the court, and in my view, Justice Brooks is a most fitting person to be appointed President of the court and to lead it through its next phase. I know that he will have the full support of all members of the court, and I wish him all the best as he embarks on this new step
in what has already been a remarkable judicial career. I owe an equal debt to the court's non-judicial staff. First, to the seemingly indefatigable and unflappable registrar who is seated in court this morning, but who really prefers to be in the back room somewhere. But I am happy we dragged her out and insisted that she had to sit this morning. Mrs. Stacey Ann Brown, as I like to tell her, having been brown before she married and having become brown on the occasion of her marriage. She continues to lead the engine room of the court with exemplary efficiency, tact, and skill. And she imparts this to her entire team at all levels: our secretaries, the staff in the registry, office attendants, orderlies, and others, who all contribute to the service that the court provides and who have all contributed to my own success as a judge and as president. They recognize fully that we are a service organization, and so the very important persons we have to serve are members of the legal profession to the extent that they are representatives of members of the public who are our ultimate consumers. In this regard, I hope that we will one day be able to give special recognition, perhaps in a separate forum, to our judicial clerks. One of the great innovations of my time on the court, which was one of the last things that Justice Panton was able to achieve, which was to fulfill a dream of each judge having a dedicated judicial clerk. The judicial clerks, who have all become an integral part of the work of the court, oftentimes save judges from egregious error by the depth of their research and the quality of their insights. And it is gratifying to know that already several persons who have served as judicial clerks in the court have moved on into other phases of life in the legal profession, parish court judges, advocates, and to other areas. Nor can I leave out of this listing of persons whom I must thank our close protection officers, police officers, who are tasked with providing us with security, and I would have to say, in some cases, including my own, saving us from ourselves. I'm sure that they must have cringed, as I did, to hear Mrs. Emily Shields say on public radio yesterday that she had often seen me strolling down King Street, as if without a care in the world. Those were the occasions on which I managed to pop them. I must also say thanks to the Office of the Ministry of Justice, including the Minister and the Permanent Secretary, and of the Court Administration Division. They have all played an important role in the life of the court, especially over the last 3 years as we planned and executed our removal into these new quarters. Naturally, virtually everything that we do in the court is critically dependent on the input of the practicing profession. I wish to thank members of the bar, so ably and eloquently represented this morning, for all that they have done and continue to do to help the court to enhance the delivery of justice. I believe that a fearless and independent bar is a crucial component of our system of justice. I would therefore urge members of the bar, both on the public and on the private side, particularly the younger members, who are perhaps, though I have to say not invariably, most in need of clarity of vision, to see themselves as continuous torchbearers in the cause of justice. I cannot leave the subject of the bar without making special mention of someone who I am confident at the age of 88 is viewing us on his iPad this morning, and that is the Honorable Dr. Lloyd George Barnett. When I was admitted to practice on October 6, 1995, Dr. Barnett, 75, oh my goodness. I'm already suffering from what happens after you retire. 1975, Dr. Barnett was one of the leading counsel in court at that time. That is 45 years ago. He was then, if you do the math, barely into his 40s. With him were persons like Mr. David Muirhead, Queen's Counsel, Mr. Norman Hill, Queen's Counsel, who we lost earlier this year. All gone now. But Dr. Barnett continues. Throughout my time at the bar and on the bench, he has continued to be an exemplar and to be a driving force for the life of the bar. I wish in my own remarks to pay special tribute to him and to wish him continued success in his life and in the profession that he still practices. Whenever one sets out to say thanks in the way in which I have in a setting such as this, it is inevitable that there will be omissions. For these I apologize, and I extend a general thank you to all who have made my time at the court as enjoyable as it has been. I have had a wonderful time at the Court of Appeal. I believe that with a group of relatively young judges now on the bench, the court will continue to develop and grow under the new president's leadership. I also believe that there is nothing to fear in change. The events of this year demonstrate this plainly. As we fast forwarded from January, when the idea of virtual courts seemed like a distant fantasy, to today, when virtual courts are very much our new reality and will probably continue to do so for some time. This has contributed greatly, I would like to suggest, to one of the features of the courts which we now enjoy: greater accessibility to the press and the public, greater transparency in what we do. And I hope that we will take that away from us, with us, when we get back to doing things more in the way in which we have always wanted to. But I wanted to make a plug, though, for getting back to normal. We all say, and I agree, that we should preserve some of the things which we have learned in this new time. So we can do some things electronically, and it is good that we should continue to do so. But I like to think that courthouses and courtrooms as physical structures play an important social role in any community. Back in the day when retired persons would wander down to King Street and sit down in Court 1 and listen to the great advocates of the day plead their cases, that played an important social function. That meant that what was going on in public, in courts, was accessible to everyone, and they could speak about it. So while we applaud ourselves and all that we have done to continue throughout the pandemic to bring justice to the people, I would hope that when we get back to the normal state that I hope we will get back to in not too long, we will sift out the things that we should keep and the things that we should jettison as we go back to normal. I have had some surprises this morning, of course. Justice Saunders, the president of the Caribbean Court of Appeal, Caribbean Court of Justice, my friend of many years, as he has said, and I are in constant touch. So I saw something in the newspapers on Tuesday about my retirement, which attributed some very kind remarks to him. So I sent him a WhatsApp and said, "Man, they rope you into all of this business." So he said, "Oh, I thought the ceremony was on Friday." So that was my first hint that something was up. So I quickly regrouped and told him, yes, it's on Friday, and I didn't pursue it anymore. So I would have to say that seeing him this morning was, from that standpoint, not entirely shocking as it would have been had I known that he was going to be here. But I'm grateful to him for taking the time. I'm grateful to him for all the kind things he has done. And I wish myself to acknowledge the sterling job that he has been doing in the 2.5 years since he has assumed the presidency of the Caribbean Court of Justice to advance the Caribbean Court of Justice as the preferred court of final choice for our region. I wish to support him, and I hope that all members of the legal profession will continue to support him in his endeavors. But my son Simon was a genuine surprise, because I was actually going to message him this morning and tell him to please remember to log in at 9:30, given that I know how busy he is. But I should have known that his Auntie Hillary, who is his special friend, would have been able to prevail on him. And he said some very kind things, and I wish to thank him. I wish to think that he spoke on behalf of all my children when he said all those things he said. I thank him. I thank his wife, Melissa, who is sitting with him and who, in her own time, has become the wind beneath his wings. So, as new thinking emerges, as life throws up new challenges, even as we look beyond 2020, a year of crosses, as I heard a man describe it the other day, or a year of pure crosses, as he said. Even as we look beyond 2020 and all the troubles it has brought, let us approach, as I do, the future with open minds and open hearts. I believe the Chief Justice's vision of where we can get to as a judiciary is a realistic one. It is a real one. And I would urge all of us, laborers in the same vineyard, to do all that we can to further it. May it please you.
Thank you very much, Justice Morrison. Before we depart, I have had a message come to us from the St. Anne Justice of the Peace Association, who have asked that I specifically and specially say that they thank you for all your work as a son of the soil, as President Saunders has described you, and to wish you good health and happiness in your retirement. I just wish to say, for those of us who may not have noticed, that because of COVID, only a few judges of us, Justice Brooks and Justice Marver, Justice Morrison, myself, and Justice Sykes, could be in Court 1. But for those of you who may not have been able to notice it, all the judges are sitting between Courts 2 and 3. So that we are split up, but we are present. And our judicial clerks, the members of the registry staff, we are all between Court 2 and Court 3 to pay our due respects and our congratulations to Justice Morrison and to wish him well in his retirement. The next point that I wish to make is that I have to say a huge thank you publicly to the Court Administration Division, who worked tirelessly throughout the last month with me sort of sitting on their shoulders. But it was really a wonderful experience to see how much can be achieved. This is the first time we have been able to do what we have done today technologically, to have things going in the 3 courts. They have really worked tirelessly, and when I left them here yesterday evening at 7 o'clock, and they were working on to ensure that today could function. They worked with the Jamaica Information Service persons also, and there was a collaboration going on in here yesterday evening, which we all are eternally grateful. So we thank you for that. We thank the members of the media for covering this event, and we really thank you all for being present. It has been an incredible journey, Justice Morrison. We thank you for your service. We thank you for your leadership and your friendship and kindness to all, and especially to me for over 5 decades. It only remains for me to say, on behalf of all of you, that you go with God in your retirement and don't be a stranger. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, members of the media, thank you so much for sharing this very important and special day with us. It was wonderful having you here and participating as you have done. Thank you ever so much, and I think I can safely say that it is now the hearing adjourned.
One. And that's it for today's special sitting of the Court of Appeal on the occasion of the retirement of the Honorable Mr. Justice C. Dennis Morrison. Truly, it is the end of an era. Thank you so much for joining us on our social media platforms, on Twitter at Jam Judiciary, on our Facebook page, The Judiciary of Jamaica, and on our YouTube channel, Jamaican Judiciary. Remember to like, share, comment, and follow us. Do have a wonderful rest of the day.